confusion? After what seems like a millennia, Avenged Sevenfold is back with their brand new record, Life Is But a Dream. Now, I've been an Avenged Sevenfold fan since I was, I think, 9. Waking the Fallen came out in 2003. And I just remember hearing Unholy Confessions, 578 classic for the first time, and I was done. I was sold, fell in love with it, listened to the rest of Waking the Fallen, then got into City of Evil, as well as following them through self-titled Afterlife. Goated solo, and of course then Nightmare, followed by Hail of the King, and The Stage. And from the new album, it seems like the reviews are a bit more split. Either people are like, this is life-changing, it's crazy, all the way to people saying, this is bad, not what I wanted, and yeah, this is a whole different band now. We're going to talk about the album and see, was it worth the wait? Also, did you know that 52% of you aren't subscribed? Hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell, come hang out. We do fun metal things here. Now, luckily, I had M Shadows on my podcast to have time to actually just talk about the record before it even came out, so that gave me a lot more context behind the record, as well as the intention behind a lot of the songs. And if I had to describe the album as a whole at first, it's an experience. It's a trip. It can definitely be confusing. But starting out the record with Game Over. Now, this is definitely, we're so peaceful with our classical vibe. Beethoven has risen from the grave to come hang out with the boys for a second. To, wake the up because we're going thrash and Slayer in your face. We have kind of like hardcore yelling, singing, semi-screaming on this track, which is a nice, just fast, aggressive start to an Avenged album. But then it also contrasts with this more ethereal, I'm gonna use this comparison, it's gonna be super weird, but Queen, Freddie Mercury. Yeah, this song definitely sets you up for the what the f*** you're about to get into. And then moving on to the track Mattel. Yeah, this is the chunky banger. If you're going to this album and you are looking for a bit of like City of Evil, this is the track for you by far. This is probably the most Avenged Sevenfold-y sounding song on the whole record, and I honestly think it's the best track on the whole record. The song even starts out with just this like fun chuggy riff with these weird vocals that sound like a baby's crying. Wah, wah. That then quickly leads into like this very sad chorus that's open and majory and very vocal focused. Which I guess if you're looking at skeletons all day, you get a little sad boy. But it's halfway through the song that you just get the nice big ass smile on your face, because sure, we get a little heavy, the drums start to go wild. Brooks's drumming when it comes to the double kicks, as well as just like the grooves and the accents, especially on this song, is just hilariously fun. But we also get a nice scream from Matt, and then the guitars, man, these dual guitars, which I'm actually glad I got context from Matt, because they're guitars, but there's like synths mainly. Sin wanted to kind of evolve the guitar he was using and do something a little bit different. So he's using like a synth patch, maybe like on an Axifex or a Kemper or something, that he's actually playing these insane synth parts that sound so City of Evil. I think it's just straight up one of the best songs they've ever made, period. Then we get into the two singles, which I've already done videos on, so I'll just kind of quickly go through them. But starting with Nobody. Well, they really like using that in this record. Now, when I did my video for this, I thought the song was decent, and I think after listening to it a few more times, I like it a bit more. It's a bit weird for like the first comeback track for Avenged, but also, to be honest, every song on this record would have been a weird comeback track beside Mattel, because it's f***ing awesome. But it's more of just kind of a chill, droning song, and the real star point is still that ending. That solo, man. Gates! Ah! And then revisiting We Love You. Strong, build, fast. I'm gonna be real, the internet has ruined this song for me completely. More, build, more. You guys completely this song for me. It does have a lot of catchy moments that's not just more. And I do think the song is quite a strong song and is weirdly cohesive, even though, again, that first listen, I'm like, this is just, they did too much shrooms that day. I don't know what this is. Next, we have Cosmic. Now, I saw the runtime for the track, saw 7.5 minutes, and instantly went, F***. And this is the longest song on the record. When I listened to it the first time, the time actually went by pretty fast. It's more of this, I don't want to say it's like a backgroundy song, but it definitely is more like a relief point from the more wacky, wild, aggressive earlier tracks on the record. The best way I could describe it is almost like an epic rock opera. Next, we're waking up to a beautiful morning. Now again, those looking for old school Avenged, this song is probably the second closest next to Mattel you'll get from it on the record. It is a bit more riff focused, and as soon as you hear that riff, you're like, Alice in Chains, them bones. And of course, this song has another wild solo that makes you want to pick up your guitar and throw it off your balcony. Oh yeah, Brooks' drums on this song is also just it's awesome. And even though this is one of the longer songs on the record, this is probably one of the most cohesive songs on the record. And it still takes like left and right turns, but they seem to have a more reoccurring foundational sound than a lot of the other tracks that are, I'd say, just more progressive in general. Now we're getting kind of the second half of the record, which these songs, they sound a lot less like you could be like, oh, Avenged wrote that one. They're weird. Easier. This is, again, more of a riff-pushing song, more basic. But it gets the job done and keeps things kind of pumping and moving. The chorus on this is weird but catchy, I guess. We get introduced to more of like the vocoder effect. Again, there's a lot of like vocal production stuff used on this record that I haven't ever heard them go to this extent with. I feel like sometimes it really hits, sometimes it's a bit of a miss. But on this track, I do think the vocoder hits and blends really nicely to this down, down, down. And then we get to G. And I've seen a lot of people kind of reference this to more of a Dream Theater wacky start. I guess I would agree with that. However, it gets really funky. I'd say this is probably the most fun sounding song on the record. It's got like, let's go to the 80s club and I don't know what they did in the 80s. Probably a lot of drugs. Yeah, and just have a good time, I guess. It's also one of the shorter tracks on the record, which I appreciate. But this is one I think you got to be more in the mood to digest. And when you are in the mood, you'll get it going. You'll have a good time. But this is probably one of my personal lesser favorites on the album. Now we get to Ordinary. This track is the fucking opposite of what Ordinary is. A lot of people were comparing it to Daft Punk, which fair. I will say this is by far the least Avenged Sevenfold-y sounding song. And that definitely doesn't make it a bad thing. It's just this track sounds a bit more backgroundy, like you'd kind of just have it going. Whereas a lot of the tracks on the rest of the album are more like, no, you got to sit there and listen. It's time for death. So at this point of the record, guitarist, you can start to mourn the loss of your guitar. This song actually is much more focused on just Matt as well as orchestra. There's a lot of better references than I'm about to give, but it does give me a bit of like a Sinatra vibe, which I think is great. I actually really do enjoy this song, but it has all these tidbits of modern production that kind of like teleport you to a different time. And the cinematic ending is also just very grandiose and cool, and it sets you up for the next track. Life is but a dream. Now, there's not much to say about this track other than it's just this big, epic, and beautiful piano ending that really, I think, does tie the record together thematically of, the existentialism that seems to be the theme of everything and, life and death. It feels like almost an epilogue. So when it comes to the entire album, overall, I think that first listen is going to leave a lot of people confused, just like it made me very confused. But as you start to just get used to the idea that this is Avenged, this is weird, it's supposed to be weird and abstract, you definitely start to get into it a lot more and start to appreciate a lot of the cool production choices. The guitar riffs that are there are nice riffs. They're great. The solos are wild as always. The drumming is phenomenal by Brooks, both on the groove aspect, the technical aspect. Bass exists and does the thing, respect to Johnny. And I think Matt's vocal performance and experimentation, I think he does a great job hooking you in. Also, not to forget, I think Matt screams on this record more than he has since, like, Waking the Fallen, to be honest, which is a nice, welcome surprise. Was this record worth waiting 7 years? Yes. I don't think it will be for kids that just want to, Waking the Fallen or City of Evil or like a very Avenged sounding album. They'll still get, an Avenged sounding song from like Mattel or Beautiful Morning, I think, and that will satisfy that. But for people that just wanted Avenged as a newer modern entity, you'll be satisfied. Especially, I'm sure, if you listen to this while, on some special brownies or, I don't know, watching the sunset. Life is but a dream. Yeah. Y'all got some fucked up sleep paralysis demons in your dreams.